I'm Adrian Lacey, an old duffer in the southeast of England, and he's not in England, he's in the Midlands, so it doesn't really count. And West Midlands, northwest of the Midlands, west of the north. Oh, I don't know. Work it out. Google it. Anyway, he is Shane O'Connor, and this is the comedy Slab. We're in. We put a different comedy each week on the Slab. We take it in turns to set each other's homework, and indeed set your homework. And be it TV, radio, or podcast, or whatever. And we prod it and poke it about a bit and see what we make of it, see who salutes, and give it marks out of 5 each, and tot them up to 10 at the end. But just before we do the review, matters arising from last week. Very quickly, I stopped recording. We'd been talking about Series 3, Episode 1 of The Mighty Boosh. As with all previous shows, it's available, all 123 of our back catalogue. It's up there for you to enjoy. And I wanted to ask what you'll probably dismiss as a really silly question, which I didn't ask during the recording but meant to. Does the Mighty Boosh mean anything? Is there anything going on other than it's just a bit of fun, as Keith Barrett would say?
Before we do that, can I go back to something I forgot to mention in episode 83 of the Comedy Slab podcast, Old Harry's Game?
No, you cannot. She's 83. No, you can't.
She's 83.
I think 1 week's all right.
Sorry, no, what do you... Oh, hang on, let me put my chair up.
I just wonder, is there any meaning to it, or should we just enjoy it as a random bit of nonsense?
Go on, pray tell. Something must have come across your mind for you to ask that question.
Well, I just wondered, is there anything trying to symbolise anything? I know it's a daft question, even as I ask it, but it's just, are we just to receive it as just a bizarre setup, the Naboutique they're looking after, and just they're the most, when they're writing it, you imagine them saying, what's the weirdest thing that could happen, and then we crank it up even more.
Well, don't forget they worked in the zoo for 2 series, didn't they? So...
Well, did that symbolise anything? I mean, why a zoo and why not anything else? Is that just a daft question?
I don't know. I've not heard anyone say, "Oh, it's the if you play it backwards, it tells you which Beatles album you should listen to the right way around in order to hear the voice of Larry Grayson." Do you know what I mean? It's not got any of that. As far as I'm aware, is that what you're talking about? Is that what you mean?
Okay, yeah, that's it. Well, that settles the question from your point of view, and I don't know why I felt the need to ask it, but you know what I'm like. Okay, so that was a scratch I have now itched.
You've given it to me now, basically. It's like it's your flea that I've now got.
Is it going to worry
that's
you?
The problem.
It's in your ear, mate. Anyway, so that's one thing. The other thing is a bit of good news. Or is it? Would you like to tell the nice ladies and gentlemen about an email you got last week?
We're turning into Sooty and Harry Corbett, aren't we? While nobody's looking.
but without the intelligence.
Would you like to tell the nice ladies and gentlemen what we've been doing this week?
That's not very nice.
What did you say, Sooty? People probably don't know, when you do a podcast, you get kind of all sorts of randoms contacting you and trying to flog you stuff. Would you like to?
You're talking about me?
To buy the KTEL Podcast-matic or stuff like that, selling services and various bits and pieces. I just shared it with you, didn't I, this week? And normally I don't really bother. I mean, I get so much rubbish, and LinkedIn is the worst. When I get people all over the Indian subcontinent saying, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you. This is nice, but I presume they want paying as well, so I never take them up on the offer. Will you be my friend on LinkedIn and that kind of thing? But I got an email, so I just shared this with you because it suggests that we're quite big down in New Zealand, which was nice.
Carry on.
Well, we're as big in New Zealand as we are in Nigeria, according to this email that we've got. This email to say that the Comedy Slabs has got good performance, as Carlos suggests, which is nice. Carlos all I thought was Carlos the Jackal, which is never a good start, is it really?
Oh, no, it's a terrorist.
Exactly.
Terrorist.
If you're going to be a terrorist, though, be an international one. There's no good doing it just in your own locale, is it, really?
No, it's like the Beatles. I mean, they weren't going to stay and live. I'm not saying they're terrorists. Although, strangely enough, ISIS Oh, let's not go there.
This is what Adrian used to do when he worked in a radio station. He'd go, this is the Beatles with their own brand of international terrorism. Love me do.
Anyway, please finish the point, and then we must get our scalpels sharpened, and that's not.
Well, that was it. You see, the really interesting thing is that I took away from this email that we were doing rather well in New Zealand. I was going to celebrate with some fush and chups. But I've been to New Zealand. You've been to New Zealand? Beautiful country.
I haven't.
Beautiful country. Thanks for everything, New Zealand. We loved it. It was really nice. And but the thing you took away from it was the negative, wasn't it? Was this?
South Africa?
We're not very.
We're 196 in the leisure category, according to his. See, now look, if he was lying to us, he would lie more flatteringly, surely, in South Africa. 196. We're still top 200 in the leisure category, but according to him. Shall I tell you, though, I have done a little bit of research, which is not like me, I know, and must never happen again. Don't tell anyone. But I have, and this is a quiz for you, and then we'll move on. What do you think is number 2 in the Apple hit parade for podcasts in New Zealand?
New Zealand.
Right?
What do they?
Just randomly, what's going to be fabulously successful? Don't ask me what number 1 is, but I can tell you numero 2.
Is it something to do with Maori?
It's not Maori, Mungo, or Midge. It is, in fact, it's the BBC Gardener's World magazine podcast, number 2.
God.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's just depressing. I wish you hadn't the top. That's more depressing than being told 196 in South Africa, isn't it? That's awful.
Well, just remember to phrase it. We're in the top 200 in South Africa. So moving swiftly.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say.
Yes, one last point.
The weirdest thing when we went to New Zealand. The first thing we did, we got there. And we got into the hotel we're staying at. I think must have been we flew into Auckland, I think. We flew into Auckland, got into the hotel, put the TV on, and the first face I saw was fellow Brummie, Ali Campbell from UB40.
Oh no!
He was living over there. He'd gone to spend a year over there or something. He was doing what's the X Factor. The New Zealand X Factor. He was on the panel there. He was. Yeah, first person I saw. I thought I've flown 12,000 miles to turn on the TV and think, I wonder what they're like culturally here. And he's going, well, I think it's great, really.
Was that half New Zealand, half? Anyway, no. Right. So we are putting on the slab of shame or fame. Which is it? You'll find out, and hopefully you've seen the show yourself or will see it. So Gavin and Stacey, sitcom about 2 young lovers as they quickly become. It's, as we speak, on BBC iPlayer, certainly in the UK. Can't speak for New Zealand or any other colonies. Oh, that's a great way to wind people up, isn't it? Any other independent nations. But we have watched Series 1, Episode 1, where they get together. We've got 2 audio clips, of which I must get us onto the first clip pretty swiftly. Going to get a headline from you, Mr. Shanester, the other side of our first audio clip, as to what you thought of it. And I think it could go either way, but we'll get to that in just a sec. So to set up this first audio clip, essentially, I mean, it doesn't hang around. It's by Ruth Jones and James Corden, both of whom feature in it, neither of whom is Gavin or Stacey. Matthew Horn plays Gavin, and Joanna Page, Stacey. Here we hear Stacey with her mum, kind of setting the scene. Nessa joins in a mo. Nessa is Stacey's friend, played by Ruth Jones. And mum sounds a little bit worried, in a sort of caring mum way, because Stacey's going off to meet this strange guy. Well, where's she know him from? Just over the phone from work. They've been chatting for work reasons for 6 months. And this is how the conversation goes.
And will you please make sure you stay with Nessa at all times? Do not let her out of your sight.
I don't know why you think Nessa's any safer than me.
Well, she's a big girl, love. Get it from her father. If she got one iota of his aggression inside her, then you'll be all right. We don't know anything about this Gavin. For all we know, he might be a paedophile.
Well, he wouldn't be interested in me then, would he?
You never know these days, love. He might be grooming you. Now, your Uncle Bryn's coming around in a bit with a rape alarm. He tried for pepper spray, but he haven't had no luck, so you'll have to make do with the alarm.
All right.
Hiya, love.
Where's your stuff? What, that's it?
I got my sling, packet of feminine wipes and 60 Regal. What more do I need?
What about your toothbrush?
I got Tic Tacs. Oh, tell me you are joking. We're only going for one night.
Yeah, and of course, the oh, you're joking, we're only going for one night. She's packed a massive case, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Stacey. I don't know why I'm having trouble remembering her name. I mean, it's in the title and everything as well.
There is a clue there.
Yeah.
As long as you don't call her Gavin.
Yeah, it's just 50-50, wasn't it, really? But, yeah. Well, matron. What about, shall I give you the headline first? The hardest thing in the entire review, that includes watching this twice, writing all the notes and formulating my opinion and doing any other research. The hardest thing was writing the blooming headline this week. I really struggled with it.
All right, that's interesting.
Really struggled with
Can I tell you, before you give me that, the reason I'm conflicted, we used to try and predict each other's reactions. I was sort of banned from it, but I'm sort of reinstating it for this one. Because on the one hand, I think it's a bit... Compared to what I know of your taste, I would say this is at the slightly too sugary sweet end, if I've got you right. And on the other hand, it's made by Baby Cow, who I think only last week we were singing their praises and talking about the high quality. So that's the independent production company who made it for the BBC. So I don't know, maybe those two cancel each other out. Anyway, it must be time for your headline, sir.
Well, the best I could come up with, and I apologise in advance for this because I think it's pretty rubbish, but my headline this week is Gavin and Stacey, well worth the trip.
Oh.
So
okay.
So that was and I tried like puns on their names and Wales and Essex and a nightmare, absolute nightmare. But yeah, that's the best I could come up with. I don't know if you thought of anything better.
I hadn't thought of anything because normally it's my prerogative if I set the homework not to. But I don't think I'd have to try too hard this week unless I experience exactly your problems. The only thing is about mentioning the trip, that's confusing. Although, of course, Rob Brydon is in the trip. I know you're not referencing the Steve Coogan Rob Brydon show, but you threw me for a moment there. Now, I'll see if I can come up with anything towards the end. Otherwise, I'll quietly forget it and concede defeat. But I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Well,
so my concerns about it being too sweet, I mean, once you dig into it, you might be talking about such things.
I think you're right. I mean, I think that's a really valid point, and I think it's a good point to make because it does have. It's not that sugary sweet, is it? Because I think there's a bit of grimy, grubby dirtiness to it as well that kind of counteracts that before you kind of think, it's all going to be a little bit too, like you say, sugary sweet. I think it manages to pull itself out of that. But Coogan and Baby Cow have done this before. I don't know if you ever saw Sunshine with Steve Coogan, where he was I think I'm right in saying he was a bin man, he was a refuse operative who had got... Is
this early Coogan? I don't remember this.
No, it was only about, I'd probably say about 8 to 10 years ago, something like that. And it was only like I think it was about a 3-parter, but he played this guy who he got a gambling addiction, and it was about the relationship with him and his wife and his little lad. And that had a tendency to kind of be a bit schmaltzy, and you think, but it still kind of works. I don't know. I think it's because it's grounded and based in reality, and I think that's what Gavin and Stacey does. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was sat there, and I think mentally I was doing the Saturday night on a social club in the north of England, going, "Come on, then, entertain me. Let's see it. Let's hear you." Because I was always put off by the fact that it got James Corden in, and he was a co-writer. Because I've had this before. I'm not a big fan of.
So you'd never seen it before, or you'd seen one or two?
Never watched it at all.
Oh, fantastic! Oh wow, I'm glad to have introduced you to it.
I think psychologically, I'd almost avoided it.
Yeah,
but I'm so glad you put me onto it.
Yeah, you don't mind James Corden as an actor, so you don't like him when he's doing chat show stuff.
Yeah.
That persona, really, that's another role, isn't it?
Yeah, I find he's just it's a bit exhausting. He's like this kind of, and even so now he's in the States, that he's this kind of terminally exuberant puppy that, you know, he just thinks everything is fantastic. And I hate that kind of thing I used to hate that when I was in radio, that people who, you know, the only people who would like think everything is fantastic have got, you know, problems, because that isn't what life is it?
Or a big fat check every month, which I imagine
it's what my wife
James does all right.
My wife says this all the way. I said, couldn't you just do it for the money? No, I can't. I can't pretend to be something. It's weird, isn't it?
Mm.
But yeah, go on. What about you? Are you? Because have you watched this before? I can't remember whether you said you had.
I hadn't seen this episode. I had seen bits before. I'm not sure. Have I seen a whole episode? Oh, yes, of course. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. No, last Christmas, they did a special reuniting them after 10 years. I'd forgotten how many years since the previous one. And I really enjoyed it. And that's quite possibly the only time I've seen it all the way through. But I'd seen excerpts and been impressed. I always love Ruth Jones' writing, although who knows when it's Ruth Jones and James Corden, how 50-50 or otherwise it is. But I know, she's done stuff with Julia Davis. Did she co-write Nighty Night, or is there something else I'm confusing it with? She played an office worker in something with asthma, I remember.
She played in 1990. She played that really weird character who worked in the salon, didn't she? She goes, "Is that all right? Is that all right, Jill? If I do that, Jill, is that okay?" She was quite keen on waxing people, wasn't she, and all that sort of stuff. She played this really dark character, which was just brilliant. Again, I thought it was fantastic, but. I'm not sure whether she had a writing
credit. She didn't co-write that, but I thought I'd come across other writing credits of hers. Certainly, I would take. I'd take any of her comedy very seriously.
Like you say, the gags. A lot of them. When she encounters that woman outside, the old woman, I could see that coming a mile off, couldn't you? Where she
from the very top, the neighbour.
Yeah. And she kind of gives a dirty line at the end and swears or whatever, and you kind of thought, yeah, I knew that was coming. I could see that from her, but I didn't mind. You don't mind it. You don't kind of you don't take a umbrage with the fact that you could see it coming. You kind of think, oh, okay, it was well done. It was fine. You're already bought in that sense.
Yeah, it's very warm, isn't it? Warm and inviting.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit cheeky at times.
What about Matthew Horn? What do you think of his performance, and what do you think of him as a comedy actor?
Well, I don't know much of his other stuff. I remember. You and I have swapped notes about Horn and Corden, which was a thing when we met at a radio station, darling. That was running at the time, I think. Mm. I think you felt more strongly against. You could say that was a proto-Slab conversation we had in the corridor.
Yeah,
I know you didn't like that at all. That's not unfair to put that spin on it. Is it?
I kind of felt a bit bitter about that. I don't know whether I have any reason to be. I could be talking out my act completely with this one, but I kind of felt that Matthew Horn got left in the wake of James Corden. And I kind of feel that finished him off for a while.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I think it was for some time a constantly swinging pendulum. Because here's the thing. The other thing that I associate Matthew Horn with is sidekick to Catherine Tate, grandson of the character called Nan.
Yeah.
And actually, I was on a tube train leaving my work, working on a different show, can't remember which one, at TV Centre, and he was on the tube train. I think that was after a Catherine Tate show. But, it wasn't travelling in style. It was a perfectly adequate Central Line train, don't get me wrong, but not a stretch limo, a stretch tube train maybe. But you've had some technical problems. We were late to record tonight, which I have to say I've made use of because I did extra research on top of my usual research. And let me steer you and our good listeners to Chortle to look up Gavin and Stacey's. You probably get it from the series section, but I clicked into Series 1, Episode 1, and there's a making of video, just a short thing, 3-minuter, which is really worth seeing. First thing I noticed was Ruth Jones smiling, which I'd never seen before, because her characters are always dour and very, very, very downbeat, really, or very dry. But James Corden is talking to camera. He's got the ump over the fact that he says, all the work I do, and even then he'd done a bit of film work, and he didn't mention History Boys, but that's where he started to really make his name, wasn't it, on the stage show, the Alan Bennett stage show that I saw him in the West End. And he was complaining to the camera, only with a slight twist of irony, that Matthew Horn was getting all the attention, and cut to Matthew Horn with hordes of autograph hunters. And that's how it was then, the other way around.
Yeah.
Now, that might have been dressed up a bit in the edit, but it's a strange thing, isn't it? And then the next thing, and we'll get on to our second clip in a mo, but while I'm on a roll, Piers Morgan, interviewing James Corden, said at one point, we approached Matthew Horn. This is when James was, by definition, well known if Piers Morgan comes knocking. He said, we approached Matthew Horn to be on the show, and he declined.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's very sad.
Yeah.
They've fallen out. I'd like to think they made it up since, but I've not got any update.
I don't know where I got it from. I kind of got that impression that the Horn and Corden thing was something that he was. I don't know whether I read an interview that he was kind of talked into doing it against his better judgment, and it bombed, and that kind of finished him off, sort of thing. And of course, it didn't. I suppose you wouldn't mind, would you? Think, well, if it finished both of us off, you wouldn't mind too much.
It's even-handed.
Yeah, but it's just, why did it finish my career off? And his has gone from strength to strength. I kind of get that in a sense, but you're right. It is sad if that is the case. But
do we take that seriously as the case, or do you think that's a kind of received wisdom, or is it something we should challenge?
Well, I mean, the Piers Morgan thing, he wouldn't say that, would he? He wouldn't. It's not a gag. I mean, the other one you mentioned in the making of is a bit of a gag, isn't it? It's kind of like you're saying. It was
delivered as a sort of dry.
Yeah, and you don't know how much of it is a gag or how much of it is based in reality. But the Piers Morgan thing, to say we invited him on and he didn't come on, I mean, that's.
Oh, that sorry, I was thinking of Horn and Corden, whether that you're saying the feeling is that quotes finished him off,
right?
I mean, I don't think it did either of them any particular favours. It only did, from recollection, one series. I don't remember it just almost full stop, but I just remember them doing sort of not particularly wonderful double-hander at the top of the show, and then the rest is all a blur to me, which I don't think is particularly flattering. I could have done with Ruth Jones then, I think. I don't think she couldn't have been involved at that stage. The writing didn't seem particularly strong.
No, I mean, in this thing, I think it's quite interesting. I made some of the notes about, some of the gags that they did. There was one where Ness was talking about, I don't want to have 3 steaks, otherwise they'll call me 3 steak Pam. It was when I had that urine infection. Do you remember what they called me then? And then they leave it, sort of thing.
And they leave that, as it were, hanging.
I don't know the one I mentioned with Bryn saying, I don't want anyone in this room being raped, myself included. Is those guys? They're not 100-mile-an-hour gags, but they kind of work contextually within the parameters of the show itself. And I know I only watched one episode, and there are things over a period of time that can grate and that can really get on your wick about programs. But in terms of the way that they signposted things and they. I said to you about like real dialogue and the way that, like natural dialogue and how it feels. There was one point that Bryn says, my brother had turned his grave if he thought I was looking after his little girl. So that he's died, who he is to her. And the signposting on the script I thought was tremendous. I really did. I thought the way that they laid out the directions for the viewer weren't obvious, but were really kind of quite helpful as well. So I don't know. It's just really weird that you kind of come away from it and thinking, well, that wasn't the funniest thing I've ever seen, but it sure did the job it set out to do.
Yeah, because I don't think I should have said up front. I don't think the clips really do it justice. For one thing, we've had to fill in some visual gaps. And the other thing is, I mean, the scene's very short. It's only when you're trying to find a minute's scene. Actually, the scene I wanted to include was only 40 seconds long, and I thought, well, I don't want to squander my hard-earned 20 seconds extra there.
Yeah.
So it's not a criticism. I mean, it does motor along, as I was saying. And I mean, I looked at the clock. By the time we've worked, we've got the scene set, which is literally that they only know each other, Gavin and Stacey, through work phone calls. It's 45 seconds in. That's right. We're not hanging about. We've done that. And we're on. And the next thing is the build to them meeting.
Yeah.
45 seconds
to
set the scene. Some shows have got longer titles than that. Yeah. And you're still waiting for something to happen a minute in.
But then
2 minutes
if you look at the pedigree of the people who are working on it, and just two quick examples, Christine Gernon, who's the director on this, has worked on, I don't think you've seen this, Family Tree with Chris O'Dowd and Nina Conti. I don't know if you've seen that. I think they only did about 7 episodes, and that was it, really. But she directed that.
No, I don't think I did.
Heaven, which we've slabbed. One that I know, Grandma's House with Simon Amstel. She directed The British Empire. She directed Series 6 of One Foot in the Grave. So you look at the pedigree that they're coming from. Ted Dowd, the producer, worked on Mid-Morning Matters with Alan Partridge. He's obviously a baby cow guy, isn't he? Moon Boy, Nighty Night, Ideal, Camping. They're you know what I mean?
Not a bad CV.
There's a massive pedigree coming. There's just 2 of the people working in senior positions on the show who
and the exec producer, Henry Normal, joint exec producer.
Yeah. The whole thing, the way it was shot, the pace, I think you've absolutely again nailed it. I think the pace was the thing that was, there was a real driver there, and I think when you've got that in an episode, it grabs you by the collars and pulls you in, and you're waiting for the next scene. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? There was a real fast-paced narrative to it, wasn't there? The whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it leaves you in no doubt that it's not hanging around, and these 2 people really fancy each other, and then there are some surprises.
Do you know what grated on me? Or do you know who? Have a guess. Who grated on me?
Oh gosh. Well, precisely no one grated on me, I don't think. Let me think from your perspective, because I know you're a fussy so-and-so. Well, it's implied it's not James Corden. His character, Smithy.
No, I mean, I thought he played a blind. I really expected him to over-egg it, and he didn't at all. I thought he played an absolute... I thought most of the cast...
Oh, was it Alison Steadman by any chance?
Yeah.
Same criticism as last week.
Yeah.
Just pitched up a bit for you.
It's just...
You don't like the high-energy voice and characterisation.
It
was a bit Mike Lee, perhaps.
Yeah. Is it? I don't know whether she... I think... Is it her method of acting, I wonder, that she finds the... Who was it used to do that? They'd say, I'd have to find the voice. Oh, God, I only ever heard an interview about this the other day. Somebody was saying they have to find the voice to find the character. And then once they got the voice, they'd be doing it all the while, so you couldn't have a conversation with them at lunch.
Oh gosh, that kind of acting.
Yeah, like a kind of...
Well, that's sort of method acting, I suppose. Yeah. But that's taking the method.
But I wonder if she does that. I wonder if she has to find them, because increasingly, you can always pick her out of the crowd, even when she's an ensemble actress, because she's the one with the irritating voice.
But one can only imagine. I mean, you've given the game away in a sense with talking about the director's credentials. The director could always direct her not to do that. Do you not think?
Yeah.
Or do you think she's not easily directable in the sense that she's got such stature now?
Your life wouldn't be worth living, would it?
Well, I'm not going to put my name to that comment. I'm going to distance myself.
I'm only joking, I am. I don't know. It must cross. These are, they're all people at the end of the day, aren't they? So, you know what the politics in the office is like. If you think that the politics on a TV set is any less dynamic,
charged,
any less tense than the, you know, this is, people always used to say to me, like, about working in radio and radio station, the politics in a radio station, and they go, oh, is it like that then? I say, just imagine the worst office you ever worked in, and it's
but throw in insecure RTs with egos, mentioning no names.
But you're right, and also
all of us.
But it is, you got the one end of the spectrum, you've got insecure people with egos, and then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got people who haven't got any status, who desperately want it and are trying to claw their way up. So, and everything in between.
There's no healthy part of the spectrum.
Not,
and also, I learnt that, you know, if you're a listener, the first thing you clue into, it comes back to the voice. It has to in radio, doesn't it? It's the presenter, the main presenter. Was I anywhere in the stratosphere when it came to any significance in meetings? You worked your way up the greasy pole. But hey, that was hard work and sheer talent.
I used to avoid the meetings, so that was the thing that used to get them. The last thing I wanted to do was have a meeting with these people, but... yeah, I mean,
well, it was management by email most of the time.
Exactly. If you wanted though, if you want an indicator of what's going on, I think you could look no further at one stage than listening to the handover between Terry Wogan and Ken Bruce. I'm not going to say any more than that. But all you've got to do is listen. Or who were the two on Radio 1? Simon Bates and
Mike Reid.
Mike Reid. Yeah, I interviewed Mike Reid, you know, and. He was a lovely interview, really nice guy, and I kind of that was the point at which I took sides on that one, but
I couldn't possibly. I met Batesy and I worked with Reedy on a kids' TV show years ago, but I didn't really get to know him. But just throwing a casual name drop, you know what I'm like. That's a quid in the kitty, I'm sure. Shall we go?
Oh, can I tell you my Mike Reid story very quickly?
Oh, sorry, yeah, very quickly if you would. Please.
He was telling me about he had a stalker at one stage. He said, and this woman...
It's not Simon Bates.
No,
oh, no.
This woman used to send him videos of her naked, just ranting. He said...
I never got any of that. I mean, because you can mute a rant, can't... Oh, sorry, that's not the point of the story, is
That's
it?
not the issue, no. So he said, anyway, he said, he said, I used to watch these, he said, just out of morbid fascination more than anything. So I just couldn't believe what was going on, he said. And then at one point, he said, she was ranting and raving, he said, and then she just stopped, looked at the camera, leaned to the side, broke wind ferociously.
Oh,
he said, and then just carried on.
After the break.
Oh, man.
The breaking of wind.
I just thought,
oh, gosh.
That's fame.
Yeah, I definitely would have watched that with the sound down.
That's when you know you've made it, isn't it? Hey.
Yeah. And that wasn't Alison Stebbin. We need to make that clear.
Anyway, sorry. Give us a clip back.
Moving swiftly on. Yes. Intro into clip number 2, Gavin and Stacey. So Series 1, Episode 1. We are now at Leicester Square, where they meet and where we see it initially, or we see Stacey in a long shot waiting on her own. Nessa seems to have abandoned her. We find out why shortly. And Gavin's with Smithy. He clocks, both of them clock Stacey before she clocks them. But then eventually Gavin and Stacey get to talk and meet for the first time.
Stacey?
Oh my God! Hiya!
When did
I
you
thought
get
you
here?
were going to come.
Of course
I've
I was
only been
gonna
here
come.
10 minutes. I like your cardi.
Oh, cheers, River Island.
Oh, so is my belt. Amazing!
Sorry, mate. Stace, this is Smithy.
Hi, Stace, all right? Heard a lot about you.
Heard a lot about you too.
So, come on your own in the end then, did you? Or?
What? Oh, no, I came with them. Oh, here she is now. Nessa!
Oh,
This is Vanessa.
£6 for 2 slices of pizza. That takes a piss, these cockneys.
Ness!
What?
This is Gavin.
All right, Gav, how's it going, all right?
Yeah, great. And this is Smithy. Right. Well, should we get a drink?
Yeah, great.
Oh, Stace,
Do you not want this now?
No, I'm not hungry anymore.
There is a very convincing realism, isn't there, about the whole thing, and I think it stems out of the dialogue. I think it stems out of the way the scenes are constructed, but it just takes you on that journey with them. I'm completely immersed. I tell you what, so much so. Here's the thing. My wife's never seen this either, so I just said, I think we should have a look at this. I said, I think we should, because we were looking for something to watch. I said, I think we should put this on the thing for us to watch, really, because I think we'd both enjoy this. And it's only half an hour, so she doesn't have the chance to actually fall asleep through it. Anything more than 32 minutes, and she's gone.
That's because she works so hard, we should just say. Can I fill in some visual gaps again, although our audience may well have filled in before I've even got round to explaining. But effectively, they're building up to a double date. But whereas Gavin and Stacey know each other from chatting on the phone, it's a blind date, effectively, if it's going to happen at all for Smithy and Nessa. And Smithy reacts negatively. I think you possibly just heard that reaction. But there's a lot in the looks and the body language. He's sort of angling himself away. Let's just say it's not love at first sight for Smithy and Nessa.
All right. By the way, I just did a quick check just to see whether Horn and Corden had fallen out. And according, this was ahead of the reunion that you watched in 2010. So this is a little bit old now. But he's
I'm talking about last year's Christmas special.
Oh right, okay. Oh no, sorry, the last episode aired on New Year's Day 2010. Yeah, you're right. It was. This is ahead of the Christmas special. Last year.
For 2019, yeah.
And he said, what was the quote? He said they just decided to not speak for a few months so that they could work on their solo careers.
I think that answers.
Yeah. But he said there was no rift, that we never didn't get on. We've been best friends since we were young, and I don't know. I mean, who knows? Nobody knows, do they, apart from...
I didn't know there was a kind of prehistory before showbiz and adulthood as mates, but yeah.
I thought, well, they were quite young when they did this, weren't they? Really, were they?
Well, yeah, they look pretty young. Anyway, look, the time is running out on us. I think it's got to be time for scores. Do you remember who did it last?
I think it was. We should have some kind of formula that we remember this, shouldn't we? Because it's getting quite embarrassing now. We're like two geriatrics who can't remember if those are their feet or not. You know what I mean? It's all very...
Well, does it really matter? But I'm going to tell you your score, because I think we might both come in at... This might be a projection of what I'm going to give it, but could it be another week where we both each give it 4 out of 5?
Well, I'll just...
Yet
again, you're like some kind of mad Professor Clairvoyance. I've just written my score down. Or typed it, I should say. And yeah, I've given it a 4. I've given it a 4. I really, despite everything, I don't know. And he does this to me every time. I remember we watched the wrong Mans, didn't we? And that was him and was that Matthew Bainton?
I think so, yes.
And
so when you say him, you mean James Corden?
Yeah, James Corden and Matthew Bainton, that was in The Wrong Mans. And I love that as well. So the guy does it to me every time.
Anyway, so 8 out of 10. Cats prefer that show to anything else we put on the Slab tonight. Or indeed morning, if you're listening that time of day. So, what have you got in your back pocket, as it were? And are you pleased to see me?
Well, I thought it was about
it's
time.
It's a funny place to put it, in your back pocket.
It is, but when you've got trousers like these, it's all you can do.
You've got them on back to front, if I may say.
That'll be why the zip's at the back. I did wonder about that. I thought I'm going to opt for some radio. And
gosh, you haven't put radio on the Slab for a little while, I don't think.
No, I struggle with modern radio.
We all want to know what you're forcing us to listen to next week.
Oh yeah, I forgot I was doing that. So anyway, sorry, I thought I'd come here to just complain. So I thought, right, okay, what shall I do? What shall I give you? And I thought I'll go for radio, but I'm going to have some old school radio. Well, not that old school radio actually, but I suppose it's in terms of it, it's my old school radio.
You're such a tease.
And if I said to you,
What's this? Just a minute.
Marcus Brigstock.
Well, we had the Wilson Save the World I put on the slab previously. So, I was looking at his telly work just today. I was forgetting. He did a children's show called I'm Sorry I've Got No Head. An interesting title. But that's not what you're talking about. I don't know. I'm trying to buy time. No, put me out of my misery.
All right, I'm going for Giles Wembley Hogg Goes Off.
Right. Yeah, I've heard possibly one of those in the past.
Oh, you've never heard it then. That's for you, really, isn't it, I suppose?
Well, I listen to a fair bit of BBC Radio. And anyway, so which episode? Was there just the one series? Or no, it's multiple series.
Yeah. Bizarrely, I've gone for Series 2, Episode 6, New Zealand.
That is bizarre. Hey!
And that was before all this kicked
Nothing
off.
up your sleeve.
Yeah, so
wow.
How weird is that?
There's something. I think the world tour is going to start in Auckland, if I'm not greatly mistaken.
Oh, do you know what? I'd go. The only problem with New Zealand is that it was actually that I said to Angelina, I said, I'm actually getting sick of hearing myself go, wow, look at that. It was just that kind of place where you just get, oh wow, look at that.
I didn't know wow was in your vocabulary. You've never used it in the 10 years I've known you.
Oh, you should come on holiday with me. I mean, we were down in the South Island where you go, like there's all the fjords. They got all fjords down there, and we went on a boat trip, and you're just like, oh man, it's just surreal. It's like another planet, never mind another country. We stopped the car at one point. I said, have you noticed? We were completely surrounded. We'd gone up hills for a while. We were completely surrounded by mountain ranges. We kind of reached this plateau at the top, and then we just everywhere you look, you could see mountain peaks. It was just amazing, wow. Incredible. Say you're doing it now,
and I haven't even seen it. Although, if you've seen Lord of the Rings, it's almost as good as being there.
I've seen Lord of the Flies. Does that count? Is that?
I don't think so, and it depends which version you saw. Black and white, I don't think that was shot in New Zealand. Don't confuse me. I think it was on the Isle of Sheppey.
It was
on a budget.
Alan Partridge thing, wasn't it, where he was comparing all the Lord films?
Anyway, shall we wrap up then? So we're going to find that on your favourite BBC Sounds. I'm going to get it wrong. Wembley Hogg. Giles Wembley Hogg.
2 M's, 2 B's. I'm not sure it's actually on there, to be honest with you. I'll have to check and find out whether it is, because this is from my own private collection.
Okay.
So I'm not really quite sure whether it is there, but we will check that for next week. Incidentally, by the way, Gavin and Stacey is on the iPlayer, and we put a link in so you can go and catch the whole lot of that. Interesting.
Brilliant. Okay, so anti-social media, we are at Comedy Slab. I was going to say little and often in terms of tweeting. Well, it's quality over quantity, perhaps. No, definitely. At Comedy Slab, Twitter, so do follow us there. Also, it's at Comedy Slab. That's our handle for our Facebook page. And, follow the former, like the latter, if you'd be so kind. And also, because you're a kindly soul, if you could recommend the Comedy Slab to friends, family, any hangers-on, door-to-door salesmen, perhaps or saleswomen. We don't have so many of those, perhaps in the age of COVID. But if you're listening, having had your vaccination, then you'll be very confident to approach strangers in the middle of nowhere, possibly New Zealand, and recommend the show. Yeah. What else to say? Oh, yeah, lastly, a nice generous star rating on iTunes, straight Apple Podcasts would be fantabulosa.
And if you're anywhere in New Zealand or anywhere else around the world, don't forget you can catch all the back episodes on Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, you name it. We are there. We should be there anyway. If we're not, let us know. And it's always nice when you get in touch as well. That's quite nice. So particularly if you're saying something nice. If you're just getting in touch to send us a video of you naked and ferociously breaking wind, then send
Alison. No,
send those to Adrian.
Send them back to Adrian. You mean? Right, I think that's pretty much it. It just remains for me to... I'm going to see Barry Island. He was a mate of mine at school. I haven't seen him for years. So, Barry, I'm on my way.
And I'm going to go and see Barry White, because, baby, I love you. I love you so much.